Good morning. Today on Spotlight, why the show must go on. How music and the cultural arts are bringing people and the community together safely during this health crisis in America. Beth Stewart, Executive Director of the Michigan Philharmonic, will join us. And later on our Sunday morning program, Olga Stella, Executive Director of the Design Corps Detroit, will update us on how her organization is leading the charge in cultivating a more equitable city in the midst of our global pandemic. It's Sunday, September the 27th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Beth Stewart, good seeing you again virtually. You're doing okay?
We are, thank you.
Very good. The show must go on. I guess that's a good phrase to use for the Michigan Philharmonic. How is COVID testing your organization?
Well, as with all performing arts organizations, it's been a challenge, of course. Many of us had to cancel the end of our season from when COVID hit. And then we're faced with trying to figure out where do you go from here if you can't really do what you normally do. And Michigan Philharmonic, like other orchestras, we're used to people coming to us. And so it's a whole different idea to think about how you take your program out to other people. And we were poised as a little bit differently than some orchestras since we don't have our own home. We're sort of the nomadic regional orchestra that performs all around the area.
Sure.
And so we've sort of been used to going to people or meeting them where they are, but now we have to think about meeting them online, on air, in a whole variety of ways. And you have to look at your program differently and how you measure success. We all measured success by sellout concerts and how many people you could pack into one place to come hear your program. And that's certainly all different right now.
What has the feedback been? Is this something that you just feel like people really want it, they really need it, they need to get out of the house, but they want to feel safe to be able to do it?
Absolutely. Music really has been, I think, one of those things that has carried us, music and the arts, throughout this whole crisis. You've probably seen the meme on Facebook that science will get us out of this crisis, but the arts will get us through it. And I think people really, believe that. And and we did too. And we thought that we could attempt to put together a concert, do it outside, be socially distanced. As you said, the musicians, those who could all wear masks were. The wind players, flutes have a thing over their mouthpiece, like an air guard. And there's lots of new science coming out about how musical instruments can be played in a safe manner. And we stayed within the limits of the governor's guidelines for outdoor gatherings, and we had only 100 people. So that included the orchestra. So you have kind of a limited audience. But with this concert we did this summer called An Essential Tribute, which was really to honor our healthcare and frontline workers and first responders, but also the fact that music is essential. We did this concert and we partnered with the high school radio station in Plymouth Canton Schools, 88.1, and we did a live broadcast. So that's how we got it out to people. And going forward, that's how we're going to do a lot more things online and enhancing our partnerships with radio stations and TV. And thanks for the time today to be able to share the things that we're doing to keep music alive and keep it in people's lives.
Well, we're glad to do so. Quickly before we go to the break, what do people seem to enjoy the most, the live performances or the virtual performances?
Well, people have really enjoyed both. One of the things that we did right away when the crisis began was we are super fortunate that we have some wonderful recordings of the concerts we've done the past 12 years. And I was able to take 2 or 3 pieces several times a week and share with people online. And just as a way to say that music is a way to help you relieve stress and alleviate anxiety and feel better. And people reacted so wonderfully to that. They're like, I looked forward to these emails. Every single time you sent something out, I listened and it made me feel so much better. So that's where music and the arts can really play an important role in this crisis and going forward, and how we keep bringing it to people in a whole variety of ways to meet them where they feel most comfortable is really important.
All right, I know that you have a lot planned. You're really looking ahead. You're looking past COVID, and you're also got some great stuff on tap for the upcoming season. We're going to take a little break. We'll come right back and have you fill us in on all that. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight, talking to Beth Stewart of the Michigan Philharmonic. All right, so you have the season passport coming up for, I guess, the remainder of this year, and you're
Correct.
looking ahead to next year. What's on tap?
Well, we do. And of course, wouldn't you know that this was a very significant year for the Michigan Philharmonic? We're celebrating our 75th season. We started in 1945
Wow.
as the Plymouth Symphony. Way back when, and now Plymouth is still we like to say, our world headquarters, but we certainly have grown our reach and the extension of our programs well into all of Southeast Michigan. And so we had obviously a very large season planned to celebrate that 75th. And what we decided to do was to take that season and put it on hold and move it to the following year, which will be probably called the 75th redo or something like that.
I think a lot of people are redoing
a lot of
anniversaries.
people are redoing. And, you know, because frankly, those were bringing some big guest artists.
Sure.
Pretty much everything was counting on a large audience to help make that all happen. So instead, we decided to really regroup. We feel that as an organization, we have been particularly nimble and able to kind of pivot in this environment, which I give great credit to our staff and our board for jumping right in to figure out, okay, well, how do we meet the challenge now? How do we keep a program going? How do we keep music coming to people? And so we came up with this idea of a season passport, which as opposed to talking about a subscription or tickets or whatever, that is really a combination of some live performances, some outside, some we've moved to larger venues and not starting the live ones until December with the hope that we can do that. And then a variety of online content. Not only some wonderful programs from our past that have been curated by our conductor, Nan Washburn, who curated a season of some of her favorites that we've done in the past, and she'll be doing some new introductions to them. And then we're also doing a few educational programs, introducing you to members of our orchestra. Our harpist, for example, Maurice Strawn, is at Wayne State University, a wonderful harpist. And the harp is a fascinating instrument. And so we'll be doing a program with him all about the harp and with some of his solo work.
Right.
And so it's a chance for people to still experience music, but we're trying to meet you where you are and where you feel most comfortable getting your fill.
Well, I know that you're going to be doing the Great Songbook, but you're also getting ready for the holidays, and they'll be here before we know it.
Yes.
And you've got the holiday pops that you're going to do in the mandolin style. That will be a little later next year as
Right.
well. And did I hear from a little birdie that you're trying to be a little creative and think ahead, because you know the weather's getting ready to change? So
Yep,
you're
we
talking
are.
about some live stuff, but you're putting something in the can just in case?
Yes, we are. And we are taping or taking advantage of the good weather, and we're videotaping our holiday concert this weekend. And it's going to be beautiful outside. And the idea was to not only then have that done and in our back pocket, but also then we will have a recording of it that we can share with nursing homes and senior living centers and places where people will definitely, even if things change, not be able to get out to see a concert. And that's also one of the things that we have been doing this summer to keep our musicians employed and busy. We've sent duos of musicians to nursing homes to play in the parking lots while they lift their windows up and listen. We've played on balconies. We've played on the steps of libraries. We've played in people's gardens.
All right. You know, I've never asked you. I know that you do all the managing of the Michigan Philharmonic. Yes or no? Are you a musician yourself? You play an instrument?
No, actually, I'm not. I tell everybody that I do everything except play the music.
And that's a good way to end this. Beth Stewart, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for bringing arts and culture into our world during this health crisis. Coming up, we'll talk to Olga Stella. She's Executive Director of the Detroit Design Corps. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. Olga Stella, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing just fine. Good to see you back. I think last time we talked, we were down at what we affectionately call the Cube downtown. Haven't been there in a good little while, so it's good to see you virtually from your home. 10 years for the Design Corps Detroit. Has it been a good run?
It has been. We've come a long way from when it was founded, originally as a partnership with business leaders from Michigan, and my predecessor, Matt Clayson, and Rick Rogers, and Sabrina Keeley, got it together as a business incubator for design businesses in a time where we didn't have a whole lot of that kind of work happening. And just really proud of how the organization has grown and developed, especially with my time the last few years there. Just the impact that we're able to continue to make in Detroit, through design.
Sure. Let's reflect back a little bit before we look ahead. If you had to point out what you felt were maybe the high marks of your organization over the last 10 years and how it's helped to shape this city, what would it be?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is definitely Detroit Month of Design, which started out as the Detroit Design Festival and has grown from just almost a week-long celebration of design to a full month. This year we had over 65 events. We've had almost 175 designers participating. Really strong showing in neighborhoods all across the city. And I don't know that we necessarily could have imagined that fully 10 years ago. I'm also really just proud of the business network that we've developed. When we started 10 years ago, we had a business training program, an accelerator program for design businesses that served a dozen or so businesses a year. And now we have a business network of almost 120 businesses of all shapes and sizes, of all disciplines of design, that we're actively working to help find new opportunities for in the community, new business opportunities. So just that kind of evolution, I'm not sure that we would have imagined it. But I think one of the biggest highlights, of course, is the UNESCO designation in 2015, when Detroit became and still remains the only city in the United States to receive a UNESCO designation as a city of design. And that was through the hard work of this organization, my predecessor, my colleague Ellie Schneider, and our advisory team. We beat out other American cities, and we've managed to continue to be the only U.S. city with the title.
Wow. So let's look ahead a little bit. What do you have coming down the pipe? Because I'm hearing about lots of good things. I know you have the monthly design program as well that people can tap into.
Yeah, so we just are creating more tools to help business owners and real estate developers work with designers, and just released our new design guide for real estate developers, and are really going to be looking forward to getting that out into the hands of emerging real estate developers, community developers, talking about the ways the design can help build Detroit in a more inclusive, sustainable way in each stage of the real estate development process. So that's something we're really excited about. We're also been working with a consultancy called Root of Two and the College for Creative Studies to develop an inclusive design training program, a variety of learning opportunities to teach more people, whether they're designers or not, about inclusive design and the process to design with people who are often excluded, not for them. And that's a program that we're, I'm looking forward to as it unfolds. It needs a lot more community engagement and development. So we're still in the beginning stages, but I think that's something that will continue to help Detroit stay competitive globally when it comes to design, because we're one of the top city in the United States in terms of the concentration of design talent, most concentrated city. We rank globally, but it's a strength that we can really be using to create a unique economic advantage. And I think this focus on inclusion, especially as we think about everything going on in the world with the pandemic, with Black Lives Matter, this is the kind of work that's really going to make a difference for the next 10 years of Detroit design.
All right, we need to take a little pause for the cause. We'll come right back with some more questions and really drill down on what this city may look like 10, 15 years from now. We'll be right back with Olga Stella. So Olga Stella, when I read in your literature that your organization helps to chart a more equitable Detroit, what exactly does that mean? Because it sounds kind of highbrow, but I'm sure it doesn't sound that way to you on a day-to-day basis.
Well, we try to make it as real and practical as possible, especially when we think about where does design happen, right? It happens in the places that we live and work. It happens in the products and the services that we use. And so when you think about, so it's happening in all parts of our lives, right? And so when we think about the role that design has in creating more equitable futures, it's really about the path each individual has to have a good life and what that looks like. And so a lot of that is about power and agency. And designers end up having, it's not the be all end all, when we talk about equity and inclusion in our city. It's part of a bigger puzzle. But design is often the process by which things get decided, get made, a place gets developed, a product gets made, a service gets delivered. And I think fundamentally the work that we've been doing through the City of Design Action Plan and this UNESCO designation has been in three areas. One is trying to help develop more diverse talent pipelines. The design community is notoriously male and white, and Detroit really has the opportunity with the diversity in our community and all of that. You see this in our design festival taking place right now, a ton of diverse talent that just needs some support, a ton of Detroit kids who could be the next generation designers. So that's one way. The second way is helping small businesses. Our community, our design businesses have on average 5 employees. This is in the city and in the region. And so these are small businesses that need support and strength. And then the third way is about the process of design. How do decisions get made? How do we decide who is involved? And that's ultimately when we're designing with people and not for people. That's how equitable futures come into play.
And it's really interesting. And we certainly have heard a lot lately about the diversity explosion across the U.S. as the numbers change. But I never really thought about it in terms of how that is affecting design and what our city may eventually look like as it becomes more inclusive.
I mean, when you think about ultimately the process is power, right? Whoever controls the process of developing a place, of creating, the products that mass consumers are going to use, there's power in that process. And if there isn't more diversity in those design studios, in the people who are developing that, and it's all kinds of diversity, gender, LGBTQ, race and ethnicity, immigrant status, all of it, because we bring different perspectives, we bring different lived experiences. That's one of the things that we've been finding through the research that Root of Two has been doing with us, Cezanne Charles and John Marshall, is that the only no one else can take ownership over someone else's lived experience, and those lived experiences, they need to be honored, and lifted up. And so, how to do this, we have lots of examples in Detroit already, especially in the grassroots community, for how people are really are included in an authentic way. It's not lip service, but how to scale that and how to make bring that into both the for-profit sector, especially, not just the nonprofit sector, as part of our culture. I think that's going to be that's a real pivot and a real change. And I'm not an expert on it. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but we are engaged in trying to learn and trying to work with the people in our community who've been doing it, and trying to figure out how we start, in partnership with the College for Creative Studies, which is, premier art and design institution located right in our city. How can we start to create more learning opportunities so that next generation of designers is trained in this way, and our business leaders and our community organizations that want to engage with Design Corps and the college, they start to learn maybe a different way of working with designers and a different process for making some of these decisions.
So we got 20 seconds left. No one saw COVID-19 coming. 10 years from now, whether it's because of COVID and things that we don't see coming, or just because of the planning of your organization and others, will our city look drastically different than it looks now?
I hope so, right? I hope that it is more welcoming. I hope that it's more accessible, right, for people of all different backgrounds and needs, and abilities. I think the thing that we're seeing, we had the pleasure working with Bank of America to support 3 businesses and making pivots related to COVID.
Okay.
Is the ingenuity that businesses have in adapting. So I'm hopeful to see what that adaptation looks like over the next 10 years.
Augustella, thanks so much for joining us today on Spotlight. Keep up the good work. And don't forget to watch Inside Michigan's African American Vote at 11 o'clock this morning over on our sister station, Channel 20. And that's it for this week. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the Spotlight. We hope you have a great week.